Man, my brain is kind of a roller coaster right now. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of good things, but, I'm fucking stressed about things. There's a lot of things I need to accomplish by the end of the year, and it's like a lot of moving parts. And so when that happens, I talk about this all the time, but like I'll wake up in the middle of the night, my brain just starts it just starts going. Like this morning I woke up and Jesse asked me how I slept, and I was like, not so good. I woke up in the middle of the night stressed out, and she's like, what were you stressed out about? And I was like, it was like a fucking slideshow of shit, just like right after one after the other. Like, is my dog on too many antibiotics? Like, what's going to happen with the economy? How am I going to get all this shit done? All these kind of things. Like, it was like rapid fire, just shit, just over and over again. It's just like, it's really annoying. I don't know, there's some statistic or some quote. I can't remember who said it, but it was like talking about how, oh man, what was it? I wish I remembered what this was, but it was something along the lines is your brain like creates all, or fuck. I wish I remembered what it was. Let me see I'm going to see if all right, I found it. I think this is one version of it, but it says, I'm an old man and have known a great many troubles, but most of them never happened. So it's like you suffer in your mind about shit, and most of the time it doesn't happen. And so that's kind of me in a nutshell when it comes to worrying about shit. Like Jesse went out of town to some conference, and I was just worried the whole fucking time about all this. Like, is she going to get abducted? Is the plane going to crash? It was fucking stupid. Because you just put yourself through this shit that just like, and it just never happens. And I think back to all these things. So anyway, so it's some shit I wanted to talk about on things that I do. Cause I know I'm not the only one that does this, but so how do I get into this? So I've talked about meditation a bunch of times, and I figured I might as well just talk about it in one episode and just kind of maybe give some bullet points and, or not bullet points, but like action steps for people. Cause a lot of times I know when I started looking into it, it was a long time ago. I think it was like 2010 or maybe before that when I really started practicing it. And at first it was like, maybe there's not as much stigma about it now because it's kind of popular, but I don't know. It just seemed like this weird, like kind of fucking bullshit stuff in my head. But then when I started doing it, I realized how powerful it was. And I wish I had been doing it, for a lot longer, because this pattern is something that I have dealt with for as long as I can remember, honestly, even when I was a kid. And I remember even one time, one of the ones that stands out a lot is, like in the 90s, I was really active on the street. I had this, like, I don't know, it was like a 3-month period where I had got laid off from my job, and it was the one time in my life that I collected unemployment, and it wasn't a lot, but like I had just enough to get by. So I'm like, man, I'm just gonna take this time off and just like bomb all the time. So I was like going and bombing downtown LA every single day for I don't know, 2 or 3 months or something. And I really wanted to completely dominate that area. And at one point I got to the point where when you would drive through downtown, and I would do this pretty regularly just to kind of go and look at graph. Like I spent a lot of time out there in the mid 90s. And there was a point where I kind of ran out of streets. Like there was, I feel like everywhere I turned, I had something on that street because I was just there all the time. And so around that time, there was this girl that was kind of hanging around with the crew, sort of. I mean, not really too much, but she knew all of us and all this kind of stuff. And then this rumor started going around that she got caught and she was snitching on all of us. And so I just started panicking, man. I just started like throwing all my shit away, like painting over. You know how like you're a young tagger and you got all this shit in your room or desk or that has tags. I say it like a young tagger, and I'm looking at my desk right now, and it's like all bombed up. So it's not. I'm almost 50 years old. So anyway, so I just painted over all that shit, and I remember laying in bed just trying to sleep, and I was just like panicked because I knew people were getting raided, and people were actually doing prison time and all this shit, and I was just totally panicked. And it was the same shit that I go through now, even now, except for it's different stuff that I worry about. So, but anyway, that's a little offshoot thing, but I figured I'd tie it to graph in some way or another. But so the one thing, there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, obviously getting healthy. When I'm on 75 hard, I tend to suffer from this quite a bit less because you're doing 2 workouts a day, you're eating real healthy, drinking a gallon of water. All those things can really contribute, and especially working out and exercise regularly, it definitely helps keep you a little more normalized. But if you find yourself in a position where it's like, 3:00 in the morning and you wake up and you're kind of panicked, you're not going to go and bust out a workout. I mean, I guess you could, but most likely that's not the solution, is to just get up and work out. So what I do is I meditate. And so I've been using this very simple technique for forever, and it's probably the most basic way to meditate, and it's just turning your attention to your breath. And so I wanted to just give you some action steps if you ever wanted to try to learn how to do this, because you'll find when you start, and I remember when I started, I was doing this guided meditation, so that's something that you can totally do. There's all kinds of apps, and that's very helpful. But if you don't want to do that, you just want to jump right in, you don't need anything at all. All you need to do is just sit there and try to quiet your thoughts. And you can do that by focusing your attention on your breath. And so when I started doing it, I was using this same technique in addition to the guided meditation stuff. But I was trying to do 20 minutes, right off the bat. I don't know if I would do that again. I mean, it ended up working because I was pretty committed to the process and I really wanted to get good at it. So I sort of sat through it. And if you've ever tried this, you know that, it doesn't take very long for the thoughts to start creeping back into your head. And a lot of times you forget that you're even meditating, and you start going off on this sort of thought pattern that comes in. So what I would recommend doing is just try to do a very small amount if you're struggling with it. If you can do 20 minutes or 10 minutes, then go for it. But my suggestion would be if you're struggling and getting a little frustrated, just try to do it for 1 minute a day, and then just increase that, or maybe 2 minutes a day. Whatever is something that's manageable for you, and just try to get it to where when the thoughts come in, which they're going to, you're able to kind of recognize that the thoughts come in and then shift your attention back to the breath. And then what ends up happening is, it's a skill that you need to develop, and it's a perishable skill. So at first it's going to be kind of hard to do, but then after a while, if you build up the skill enough, what can happen is you could start being stressed out and then recognize it and then just shut all your thoughts off. And you don't have to use a technique like focusing on your breath. You can build up the skill enough to where you just kind of turn your brain off, which at first I didn't think that was possible. A long time ago, when I started looking into meditation, I was like, what would be in your brain? What would be in your head if you weren't thinking about anything? And I couldn't imagine it because I was used to just how we normally live, just constantly. Well, at least I think that's how most people live. I know that's how it is in my head, that it's just the thoughts are just going and going and going. So the idea of no thoughts happening, it was such a foreign idea to me. But now I can do that. The problem is, like I said, it's a perishable skill, so I haven't been practicing it as regularly as I should. I use it when I need it, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I can still do that. When I start stressing and I start thinking about stuff, I can shut my thoughts off. But the problem is, if I'm really stressed out, the thoughts come back really fast, so like I might shut it off for a few seconds and then the thoughts will start creeping back in. And so when I'm trying to go back to sleep, I'll use that breath technique where I'll just start focusing on my breathing. So what ends up happening for me is if I wake up in the middle of the night and I just kind of go with the thoughts, I'll literally never fall back asleep. Like I won't just think myself to sleep. I'll just lay there and the slideshow of all these different things that I'm stressing out about will just continue to play until I have to get up and get ready. Or if I commit to, trying to shut the thoughts down and focus on my breath, then I will fall back asleep. The problem is it still happens to where I'll say, okay, I got to do this. I'm going to stop thinking about all this shit. My mind really wants to go back to all that shit that it's thinking about. So it's constantly trying to knock me off of that shit. So if I don't fall asleep by the time my mind decides to take over or is able to take over, then obviously, it gets interrupted. That it works every single time if I can stay in that state. So, I was thinking about it, and we're kind of entering this kind of, not entering. We've been in this pretty stressful time for the last couple, 3 years or something. And, there's all this shit going on with the economy and fucking whatever is going to happen and war and all this shit. There's like a lot of fucking shit going on right now. So I would imagine there's a lot of stressed out people. And, I would just wanted to share that and encourage you to try this tool out because, it's really helped me a lot, and it's a very simple tool. You don't need anything. You don't need anything to do it. You just need to sit there and focus on your breath. And anytime your thoughts creep back in, just turn your attention back to the breath. And a couple of things you could do is just try to just notice the sensations. That's one thing you can do. Like you can feel the air coming in and out of your nose, or feel your lungs inflating, or any number of things that you can turn your attention to and really try to focus in on that stuff. After a while, you get pretty good at it, and it is a tool you can use. And just one little side note before I get out of here. Before I learned how to do this, like a lot of people, you'd get a song stuck in your head, and you would just have to deal with that until it's done being in your head or until your mind goes on to something else. Sometimes, it's hours or even like a whole day. But once you get control over this shit, you can actually turn it off. It's kind of weird. Like I could just stop it once I recognize that it's happening. So I don't think I was able to do that before. And the last thing, I used to pretty much exist with that sort of tense stress feeling in my stomach. Like I was just stressed out all the time. And over time, as I learned to do this, at first I was able to focus my attention on that and say, I'm not going to feel this. And then that would sort of fade away. And then after a while, I was able to just sort of, when I'd feel that stress feeling bubbling up, I was able to say, I don't want this feeling, and it would just stop. And then after a while, I just didn't feel that anymore. So it's pretty rare that it used to be pretty strong. I don't know how to describe it, but that really tense feeling in your stomach or your chest when you get stressed, for me, it used to be really strong. And then if I thought about something, I would feel this kind of wave come over me, almost like chills, or I don't really know how to describe it, but it used to be really strong. And now when it comes on, it's really weak, and it's really easy to take that physical sort of feeling away. So that's another benefit that I found. And anyway, so it helps. I think it's really good really good technique. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Hope that helps. I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you next week. All right. Good.
Appreciate each and every one of you guys who are supporting the cause and continue to spread the love. And yeah, stay up.